My friends, we are all lucky that I have surrounded myself with a better group of people than I did my last attempt at running a YouTube channel. Because if not for them, we would have had temper tantrum Josh a few days ago, having a complete meltdown on video with no regard whatsoever for the consequences, as I got very, very frustrated after my next video, to the point I was in a rage. And my poor thumbnail editor, he's actually a very good friend, and we talk a lot about different strategies for the channel, different video ideas. And his strategy a couple nights ago, when I was incredibly pissed off, was maybe I should just take a couple days off and not worry about anything, not pay attention to YouTube, and just chill the fuck out. And that's why we're probably hopefully gonna end up with a better video than had I recorded this video a couple days ago. So a big shout out to him for being the voice of reason when I start getting very emotional. So if that's not any indicator of what's going to happen, I'm very frustrated, but we're going to talk about it. We absolutely are going to talk about it. Before I get to it, we got another shout out today for a super thanks on the last video from Mr. Zankind with the $5. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys obviously watching the videos and helping the channel to grow and all that. And you know, when you guys are able to help support in other ways, obviously that helps a lot. It does a really cool thing for me. It makes it so I can just give you my opinions on the trucking industry without having to water them down or be fearful that something's going to happen to me. You know, they'll fire me or whatever if I give my honest opinion about things. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't make enough money on YouTube to support my family on a monthly basis, but it offers me a little bit of a buffer. So thank you guys so much for the support and watching the channel. And once again, Mr. Zankind with the $5 super thanks on the last video. All right, I was pissed a couple days ago, and I brought this on myself. I deserve this. I made a video a couple days before that, maybe last week, where I accused my viewers of gaslighting me because I know the difference between running dry van and refrigerated freight, but everybody kept lying to me. And not everybody, some people kept lying to me and telling me that dry van was the exact same as refrigerated when it comes to wait times and crazy schedules and things like that. And I decided it would be funny to make a video where I accused my viewers of gaslighting me and trying to manipulate me for their own satisfaction. And I did get plenty of amusement out of that video, only to find out the week later you guys were gonna go, hold my beer, motherfucker. You thought we were gaslighting you before. Well, we've got something for you today. And you guys did. You trolled the shit out of me. A lot of you did. And we're gonna talk about it. The main topic of today's video is how truckers destroyed trucking. And it does relate to a huge topic apparently of conversation from my last video. So we'll talk about that first, and then we will move into the main topic. So there's a lot to cover here, okay? And if any weirdos from TikTok happen to make their way over here, this is what's commonly referred to as a conversation or a discussion. That's probably pretty foreign to you. There's no weird dancing in public, and it's going to take more than 3 seconds to get through this. So if you're in the comments shouting at me to get to the point, this is actually a you problem, and I will not tolerate your Ritalin rage in the fucking comment section. You're just going to have to get through it. You can do it, little fella. I believe in you. So here's what we're going to talk about. God damn it. Here's what I was mad about. Here's what I was very, very mad about. In the last video, I thought I did a pretty good review of Swift. It was a fair review with most things being very positive, but I had a couple negatives in that video, right? And it wasn't like I went searching for negative things to talk about. A couple things that I just didn't particularly like. It was my own opinions, and I knew though that I had to come into that video with some sort of, hey, maybe this could be better, or maybe they could, you know, something that maybe Swift could improve on. And the reason I felt like I had to do that, it's not that I didn't believe those things, but the reason I felt like I had to do that was because if I would have came into that Swift video and been like, Hey, everything is amazing at Swift. It's the greatest trucking company ever. There's nothing negative to say. Nothing can be improved in this company. It is the perfect trucking company. By the way, here's my referral code. Then you guys, a lot of you guys would have been reasonable to say, Josh, what the fuck are you doing? There's no such thing as a perfect trucking company. How much are they paying you to make this perfect review about them? Josh has sold out on us and he's an asshole. And you would have been right to think that. I know that no trucking company is perfect, so I found the couple things that I don't necessarily like that I think could be better, and I made sure those went in my notes and went into the video, because not everything's perfect. I'm having a good time here, if I'm being honest, but not everything's perfect, right? And I guess if I would have been smarter, I would have put out my referral code and lied about how it's amazing. It's the perfect trucking company. And what I heard, I don't know for sure, but I heard that they give a $1,000 referral bonus. I bet I could have got 10 dummies to fall for it. I could have cleaned house $10,000 by coming in to my video and saying, this is the greatest company ever, here's my referral code, and all these things. But I chose not to. I chose to give my honest views of the company, and now I'm realizing how stupid I was. I should have taken your guys' $10,000 and ran. That's what the fuck I should have done. So one of the things I pointed to is that Swift does not have a clearly defined beginning and end of their payroll. And I have actually proven that to be true. You know how I proved it to be true? Because I said that in the last video, and I'd say at least 10 Swift drivers came to me to tell me, yes, they do have a clearly defined beginning and end to the payroll, and they told me what it was, and every one of those drivers had a different answer. Do you know why? Because there's fucking confusion about when it begins and ends. That's why. They all knew the answer, but they all had a different answer. Isn't that nifty? Yeah, pretty interesting, isn't it? Pretty interesting. And my gripe with that, my complaint with that specific system is you should always know a specific beginning and end to your week. That way you're able to plan out that week to be as efficient as possible. Or maybe you're just hot that week. Maybe you're on fire, you know, doing really good. And then you can make the decision based on that week. Should I plan to maybe squeeze in a reset? When it comes to your home time, we need to know when that pay period ends so we can account for the cost that we're still going to accrue while we are home. And those things are all very important when it comes to planning, right? I firmly believe that. You need a beginning and end time, date or day, whatever it needs to be for your pay periods. And nobody knows what the fucking answer is. And that bothered me, and I don't like it, and I think it should be better. So here's the part where I started to go crazy. All of a sudden, people started accusing poor old This Guy Trucks. I have been victimized by the internet, my friends. They started accusing This Guy Trucks of not understanding business and not being business minded enough to be in a lease. Because Josh, what are you concerned with weeks for when you need to be concerned with quarterly and annual profit of your trucking business? Holy fucking shit. Whoa, I about lost my mind reading all those comments. Jesus fuck. Guys, surely this is not the first you've ever heard of a truck driver, owner-operator, lease operator, or company driver tracking their performance on a weekly basis. Ugh, I think I just stroked out for a second there because I forgot what I was going to say and I almost passed out. This is not the first time you guys have heard of this. Don't fuck with me. Don't lie to me, okay? Go to any truck stop. Next driver over to you at Fuel Island. Don't beat him up on Fuel Island. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying, hey, look over at him and say, hey, how'd you do this week? He's going to be able to tell you. He's going to be able to tell you, I only got 2,000 miles, bullshit week, I had to do a reset or whatever. Or he's going to be like, banger, we knocked out 3,500 miles this week. We just went. You know why? Because every over-the-road truck driver tracks their progress on a weekly basis. Now, that's not to say that you can't also track that on a quarterly basis or an annual basis. But every truck driver out there that's, well, I was going to say that's paid by the mile, but even a truck driver paid by the hour is going to be able to tell you how many hours he put in this week. I'm not the only truck driver that ever existed that has paid attention to how I was doing on a weekly basis. Not even close. That's what we do, as a matter of fact. So I was actually shocked to hear this. I was very, very surprised that all of a sudden everybody changed the rules on me and we no longer track our miles on a weekly basis. I had no fucking clue. I got kind of dragged through the mud quite a few times about how I have no business sense because I refused to think about it on a quarterly or annual basis, which I didn't refuse. I actually never even mentioned that. I never even said it. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information on me that's going to shock you, okay? Do you want to know what that information is? I am not a wealthy man. I don't know what you think I'm making out here, but I am not a rich man. I am just a guy that is with everyone else in this absolute bullshit freight market, but loves it enough to try to stick through it and make it through. And yes, I'm dumb for doing that. I understand that. But this is what I do. I haul freight, baby. All right? And I'm just like everybody else that's just hanging by a thread, just trying to get through. So when you ask me, Josh, why is it that you're so worried about your weekly miles? Well, there was actually somebody that kept calling me a business, and thank you for that. I know these striking good looks and you know, my obviously great charisma and charm has probably led a lot of people to believe that I'm actually an AI and not a real person. But he kept referring to me as a business. You're a business, so why don't you think of this business mindset? This is true. I am effectively running a business, but you know what else I am? A fucking human being. Yeah, a real life person. I know, another shocker. I hope you guys weren't driving when I said that, or you would have drove off the road. I'm actually a real person, and some of you have even met me before. Like walked up, hey, you're this guy Trucks. Yes, I am. How are you? And I was probably real awkward about it because I'm a fucking weirdo. But I'm actually a real person. So let me explain to you why this mattered to me. I had thought that I set myself up for a 3,000-mile week. And don't worry, we're getting to the point about how truckers destroy trucking. This is part of it, okay? I had set myself up for what I thought was a 3,000-mile week on the information that Payroll gave me, right? They told me on my very first call with them that your payroll ends at Thursday. For some reason, I'm not fucking bullshitting you. That's what they told me. So thinking that I had found myself a load off the load board for 1,400 miles with the 1,600 I already had to equal 3,000. And that load was delivering Thursday morning. It could have delivered Wednesday, but I had until Thursday, end of Thursday, to deliver it. And I was trying to kind of conserve some hours. This is why our weeks matter. How many hours should we be using to make this week good? How many should we not be using to maybe roll over into next week to give next week a fair shot also? This is why these things matter. Well, because I wasn't given the correct information on what I thought was a 3,000-mile week, I got paid out on a 1,600-mile week, right? And because I got paid out on that 1,600-mile week, there's not a whole lot of profit in 1,600 miles. After your fixed cost, after those are covered, that's where the profit starts to come in. In 1,600 miles, there's not a whole lot of profit left by the time you paid fuel, fixed cost, and all that. And my check, guys, my settlement, we don't get checks, we get settlements, right? My settlement was $136. Oh, fuck. The human part of me, the part that's supporting a family, you know, my house in Colorado where my family lives, went, oh my God, this puts me in a real bind right now. This is really quite the situation. And now all the bills at home. Now I'm not crying, I'm just telling you why human me is separate from business me, and human me has shit to figure out. So I had to fix that situation because now it was already kind of fucked up. And at this very moment, as I'm recording this video, do you know where I'm supposed to be? My house. I'm supposed to be home this weekend. But there was a miscommunication on how payroll ends, and my bills don't get paid quarterly or annually. They want money every goddamn week. You know, every month I'm paying out a certain amount of bills. So because there was this miscommunication that was told to me by Swift, it caused me to lose out on, not lose out, but get it later. A lot of money that I thought I had earned. And I canceled my home time, because now I had to make up for just not being given correct information. Do you see why it matters now? Yes, I'll get that money later, right? Sure, I'll get it later. But maybe I panicked a little bit. I don't know. but I ended up canceling my home time. I had to call my family and say I can't come home because there's not a clear communication on how these pay periods work, and I need to make sure the bills get paid this month because my family, they're a very selfish group of people that enjoy living indoors. I know, I've been trying to tell them, what's all the fuss about? Why do you think you need to live inside? And they won't listen to me. Because they're monsters, apparently. And so because they like living indoors, I have to do things like that, right? That's why weekly matters, my friends, because even though we are running a business, we're still humans and we still have human needs, right? So, how truckers have destroyed the trucking industry. All of what I just said is just part of that, and I'm going to explain why. Because when I first came into trucking, one of the things I was told over and over was, because you'd listen to how these companies were going to pay you, and you'd be like, this doesn't make sense. You're going to pay me this much to do this and this much to do that, because trucking companies can have a lot of convoluted ways to pay you, but more importantly to confuse you so that you don't understand how much money you should be making. Have you ever tried hauling containers around Denver? If you haul it from this yard, we'll give you $15. If you haul it from this yard, it's only $8. But you know, you have to understand that this yard's a shorter drive and all these things, and they make you do all these mental gymnastics to understand how much money you're even making. And the minute that any company, however they're going to pay you, makes you have to jump through mental hoops to figure out how you're getting paid, here's the short answer: that they're fucking with you. There's something wrong with what's going on. Now, I'm not implying that Swift is fucking with me. I would like them to fix their system. I would like them to have a clear-cut definition of when I'm done with the week and when I'm starting a new week. That allows my weekly planning to be better. Has nothing to do with quarterly and annually. It allows me on a weekly basis to make the best decisions possible for my business that eventually ends up being quarterly and eventually ends up being annually. Have you guys ever heard, have you guys ever watched a football game, right? Towards the end of a football game, you hear the announcer go, and that was a huge first down for the Kansas City Chiefs. They had all these first downs the whole game. Why did that one matter more? Well, because that one may be the one that's setting them up for that game-winning field goal or that game-winning touchdown. And I don't even like thinking about the Chiefs winning, but that seems to be what they fucking do. So that's who we have to think about. Have you guys ever seen in your life that sometimes it's those small wins, those small victories that stack up to the big picture? Right? Let's say that on average, I gain 20 subscribers per day on YouTube. I don't know that to be true. I don't necessarily pay attention. I used to, but I don't really now. But let's say that that's true. Now, you would look at my channel every day and say, he just made 20 subscribers. He just gains 20 subscribers. Who gives a shit? Come back in a year and we'll see that whole thing. The point of that is the small wins all add up. So me to be efficient week after week makes fucking sense why I would want that. Obviously, you gaslighting fucks. You gaslighting motherfuckers. Anyways, I was always told when I was just starting trucking to think about it in a different way. If you just think about it differently, then you'll see how it makes sense. And I gotta call bullshit on that, right? We don't just change the way we think about things if something's wrong to justify that wrong thing now being a correct thing. Now think about this. If we applied that to other things in our lives, right? Let's say one of you local drivers, I'm not picking anyone in particular, but you come home from a long day of work, you walk in the door and you see your neighbor railing the shit out of your wife, right? And of course you're mad. You're probably thinking about doing some very violent things right now. Like this could be very bad. And then your wife, you know, sits you down. She says, honey, just think about this, okay? You really just need to think about what you just happened, what you just saw, to understand that it wasn't really a bad thing. And honey, I was thinking that, you know, the neighbor, he has needs, you know, and we're being very neighborly if we take care of his needs. And in the Bible, it said, love thy neighbor. And we don't want to be sinners now, do we? So you, by proxy, are loving the neighbor because you just caught me loving the neighbor. And then you're like, yes, I mean, my God, my life belongs to Jesus Christ. Of course I want Jesus to love me. Yes, and nothing good came out of that except you're a cuck, is all that just happened. You don't get to look at blatantly wrong things or things that could be better and then do mental gymnastics in a way that suddenly makes it better, because we all know that it doesn't make it better, it just makes us feel better. And that is what truckers do over and over and over in trucking. They jump through mental hoops just to go, okay, this thing is better. Now, when it goes back to the pay period thing where nobody knows where it ends, none of you want that. None of you actually want that in your job either. Let's say you local guys again, all right? You work Monday through Friday. You come in on Friday and your boss says, hey, I need you to work tomorrow, Saturday. Can you come in? And you go, okay, yeah. And in your head, you're going, I could use some overtime, so yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. Then next Friday comes around and you get your paycheck, right? You go to get your check and you notice you didn't get paid at all for Saturday, which should have been overtime pay, time and a half, baby, and you didn't get paid for it. You go, boss, what the fuck? And he goes, oh, last week we moved the pay period to a day earlier, so you're actually gonna get paid for that Saturday on next week. Don't worry, you'll still get it, but you were planning to take the wife out, you know, you got your little overtime money, now you gotta wait a week, and maybe you got her pumped up, all surprised, you know, or excited. He's gonna take me out to dinner. He put out put in that overtime Saturday. He's getting that check today. We're going out to dinner. Hell yeah. And then you gotta say, hey, no, I can't do it. You got to wait a week. Well, that's what I just had to do. That's what I just had to do. There's no justification for things not being done the right way. And that's what we continue to do as truck drivers. We are the reason that things are bad. I'm going to get off that topic and move into some others, right? When I first came into trucking 10 years ago, there were old truckers then that are probably long retired by now. And those old truckers used to talk about the good old days of trucking, right? And what the good old days of trucking was to them was the time period before deregulation. And that's when truckers made money. Truckers could support their families. If you want to know what deregulation is, I forget what the fuck it's actually called, but you can Google it and you can go read it. But basically what it did was there used to be that only certain trucking companies could run certain commodities and certain lanes in the country. And that sounds bad on the surface. You want to read deeper into it. That's just a part of it too, by the way. There's much more to it. But that was one of the big parts of it. Once it was deregulated, everybody was allowed to bid on different lanes, and everybody was trying to undercut everybody to get that lane. And they knew they had to go the lowest price possible. So I've always said this, once deregulation happened, it was a race to the bottom to be the cheapest carrier out there so you could get all of the lanes, which in effect gave birth to the mega carrier that we all hate, apparently, right? Not me, I work for one. I love them. I work for one. But in general, we're supposed to hate the mega carriers because they have ruined the industry, because they pay low wages, they run for cheap rates, and that's what deregulation caused. That was a huge side effect of it, right? Now, the old timers from back then would talk about how it was such a great time to be in trucking. Everybody was making money. Everyone was happy. You knew which company was doing what. If you wanted to run this specific lane, you know exactly who to talk to. All these things. And I thought it was just a bunch of old blowhards just talking nonsense. That's why I know about it. I went to read about it, right? And it turns out they were actually fucking right. So years ago on my old channel, I made a video about how deregulation was a bad thing for the trucking industry, right? And I based it on research. I actually looked things up. I'm not as up to speed on it as I used to be because I haven't read about it in a long time, a lot of years. But the minute I made that video, the same people that were in my comments section the week before talking about how mega carriers are the devil, they're the problem with the industry, on top of that, immigrant drivers, oh, they can't stand the immigrant drivers. The minute I made that video on how deregulation was bad and how it caused mega carriers to be so prominent in our industry, and even how it is part of the reason that a lot of companies are hiring immigrant drivers. Keep in mind, I'm not necessarily against immigrant drivers, but a lot of companies will do that because Well, unfortunately, those guys will take a lot lower wages. I presented all this information for a whole bunch of motherfuckers to just come back screaming at me about how I didn't know dick about what I was talking about. Fucking deregulation was the greatest thing that ever happened to us, and they are the people that hate the exact thing that they're cheering for right now. You see how I'm saying that truckers are the reason the industry sucks? Because truckers don't look out for their own interest. Truckers very rarely will stand up for their own interest and say, this is what this industry needs. This is what needs to be better. What they will do is stand up against the guy that's already having a hard enough time over there. There's a guy over there having a hard enough time right now already with trucking, and I get to feel better than that motherfucker. So because he's having a bad time, I want him to have an even worse time. I want him to struggle more so that I can feel better. I don't want better for me. I don't want better for my fellow truckers. I want that son of a bitch over there that I don't even know to have a harder time so that my not as hard time doesn't feel as bad. That's what the fuck I'm interested in. And we know that that's true. Truckers never ever stand up for what's right in trucking, for the right thing that is better for all truckers. Let's look at the history. Black smoke matters. Oh God, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm the only one that keeps bringing that up, so it's my own goddamn fault. Nobody else is talking about black smoke matters. I'm a little bit of a trucking historian buff or whatever. I like knowing the history of the industry I work in. So they were gonna go out to Indianapolis and they were gonna shut down all lanes of traffic with their trucks, preventing anybody from going to work, because they needed to know that truckers run this fucking country. And for the most part, they didn't have a clear message. What is it that you guys are protesting against? You're clearly not protesting for a black smoke cloud. That would be fucking silly now, wouldn't it? The main point they were talking about, the only thing I could even make sense out of from it was they were really mad about ELDs, you know, the ELD mandate, the electronic logging devices in our trucks. My God, if these dummies would stop for a fucking minute and think about how ELDs were beneficial to truckers overall, they would shut the fuck up. But they're not interested in hearing about it being beneficial. They're interested in being mad about it. But Josh, what do you mean it was beneficial? I've said this so many times before, but I'll say it again. Once the ELD mandate went into effect, rates and wages jumped instantly, because all of a sudden, this capacity of trucks that were running 20, 22, 23 hours a day had to come off the road. They had to park the trucks, which reduced capacity, which caused rates to jump almost fucking instantly, right? Like I said before, when I started trucking, 30 cents a mile, that's about where you were at. It is nothing to get 60 cents a mile now. Only a fucking trucker would come up with, you know what I really like doing? Working twice as hard for half the fucking money. Bring me back my glory days. This is insanity. Now you get to park the truck, you get to relax, you get to go out to dinner, whatever it is you need to do. Get that rest you so desperately need that you used to replace with fucking doing a line of cocaine off a lot lizard's asshole. Now you can actually sleep. Now you have a healthier lifestyle that you can enjoy because you've got time to shut down the truck and do it, and you're still getting paid the same. But you're begging to go back to the days when you work twice as long in a day for the same amount of money you get because you were only getting paid half the rate per mile, right? So you're just longing for those days. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Are you out of your fucking minds? And it was just a bunch of guys that needed to feed their egos that they're cowboys and they're running outlaws so they could tell their friends, and they didn't give a fuck about the greater good of the trucking community. They just gave a fuck about their badass outlaw cowboy trucker image. What a goofy fucking thing to be worried about. Are you fucking kidding me? That's what you're worried about? Would you send, like, my God, just because life's was harder for my grandparents doesn't mean they wanted it to be harder for me, you know? My parents don't want life to be harder for me, and I don't want life to be harder for my kids. Like, that's what we do as humans. We advance. We do better. We make it easier for the next generation. We lift them up. We don't... That's why 4-year-olds aren't fucking coal miners anymore, guys, because we advance. What the fuck? And then, like, all this, like, a trucker will shoot themselves in the foot just to spite the trucker next to them. It's stupid. It's fucking stupid. And can you tell I'm passionate about this industry? God damn it, I love it. I love it, and sometimes I fucking hate it. But me and this goddamn industry, we're stuck together. We're stuck together, goddammit. And then here's where some of you are going to get mad, but it doesn't matter. If I was worried about people getting mad, I would have ran from this video, right? If you're still here, I'm saving it for the end. We'll push some buttons at the end. Like, there were seriously truckers that wanted to shut down New York City because they were mad because Donald Trump is on trial. Man, feel how you want to feel about your politics. That's fine. But what the fuck ever happened to standing up for yourself? Let's go on strike for something that benefits the greater good of trucking and even the greater good of society. Not shut down New York City because Donald Trump's on trial. That does nothing. That does nothing to help us at all. I don't get it. The point of the video, my friends, is that can we shut the fuck up? Yeah, after I just talked for a half hour, that's how I'm going to end it. Can we just shut the fuck up about all the bullshit that doesn't matter anymore and start to finally give a fuck about ourselves and our fellow truckers? Because all this time, I've been told there's a brotherhood of trucking, and I was the asshole for not participating in the brotherhood of trucking. And you know what? The more I look back on it, I am the second son of 4 sons. I have a sister also. But I was not the big brother, and my big brother, bless his heart, sometimes he was kind of a bully when we were young. And if that's the brotherhood we're talking about, then we got it, because there's a lot of fucking bullies out here that aren't looking for solutions. There's a lot of people that just want to be better off than the guy next to them, and if they can do that, then they're fucking content. And that's the elites playing us against each other, guys. And you're allowing it to happen because you don't give a fuck about other truckers. You give a fuck about yourself only. And that's the end of the fucking video. I'm tired. Bye.